I want to talk about the role of the government. The government really supports the banks. You've all heard of too big to fail and too big to jail, and that's true. You probably suspect the banks run the country, and they do. The reason is, if the government doesn't do what the banks want, or heaven forbid, goes after them criminally, the whole financial system will collapse. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and Ginnie Mae, that are called government-sponsored entities, they're not actually government entities, but they are sponsored by the government. They rely on securitization, which is illegal. I believe either Ginnie Mae or Fannie Mae, in fact, created securitization in the first place. Now let's talk about what the government says and what they do. They say actions speak louder than words. When this crisis first started in 2008, everybody thought the banks would do something smart and fair and do loan modifications. And the government publicly announced all over the place that they strongly favored loan modifications to keep people in their homes. That was a complete lie. What they did first is they passed laws. In California, I believe, was the first, but then eventually most all states did, including there's federal laws that prohibit anyone, an attorney or a real estate expert, from charging in advance what are called upfront fees to try to get somebody a loan modification. Now, if the government really supported loan modifications, do you think they would have a law like that? So it makes no sense. In addition, what the government has done, the state bars, the state of California, and the federal government, is they have viciously gone after any lawyer or real estate professional who tries to help homeowners. In California, between I think about 2009 and 2012, what happens with people? They're financially distressed because they usually, or they would have been probably paying their mortgage, and they give some lawyer or real estate broker or real estate expert their hard-earned little bit of money they have left to try to get them a loan modification. And the banks do not do loan modifications. It's been well established and proven that they make more money by foreclosing, so that's what they do. Every once in a while, they will do a loan modification, but if they do, it's completely illegal, and the terms are usually much worse than the original loan. But generally, they don't even do them if they can possibly think they can foreclose. So the state bar, the federal government, and the state governments, instead of telling the truth, and Kamala Harris, I criticized her publicly when she was the state attorney general in California. But let me get back to what happens. So people give their hard-earned money to some lawyer or real estate professional to try to get them a loan modification. And of course, the lawyer can't do it. And maybe they even get evicted. So they blame the messenger. They blame the lawyer. They blame the real estate professional. They complain to every state and federal government agency, state bar, if it's a lawyer, that they can. And in California, instead of telling people the truth, that the reason they didn't get a loan modification was because the bank wouldn't do it, the government, and they're still doing this, went after the lawyers and the real estate professionals. I believe in California between 2009 and 2012, there were something like 12,000 complaints against lawyers with the California State Bar claiming that those lawyers had given useless help. I forget exactly what they called it. They disbarred and criminally prosecuted something like 296 lawyers, including me, of course. And so instead of telling people the truth that it was the bank's fault, they let people continue to believe that it was the lawyers and the real estate professionals. The same thing is true with all the other government programs. The HAMP program did help some people, but it was pretty much illegal because under HAMP, you had to continue to pay your loan. And as I've said, the loans are completely illegal, and collection of those loans is criminal. So you can go through all the other programs, and they're all illegal, and the truth is the government doesn't really support them. Now, no human being could do anything about this. It's way too big a problem. The banks operate internationally, so it's all over the world. There are foreclosures all over the world, and there are wrongful evictions all over the world. And it's way, as Eric Holder testified before Congress, and said the banks are too big to fail and too big to put in jail. But the virus doesn't care about any of that. And the virus is what's forcing the change. And that is what's going to, in my opinion, and the opinion of most others, going to cause a major collapse. The banks are currently insolvent. All the big banks, their losses exceed $2.6 trillion the last time I checked. And the banks don't have that much in assets, so technically they're bankrupt. The Federal Reserve has been saving them, pumping about $1.25 billion a month into the financial system. But that can only continue for so long. And when the banks do collapse, it's going to be a nightmare. Millions of people are going to die. People will panic and try to run to the bank to get their money. They won't have a lot of money, so they'll rush out to the grocery stores and try to buy whatever they can with whatever little cash they have. The grocery stores probably won't want to take their money because they will be freaked out too. People will start doing horrible things to each other, fighting for food. And like I said, history teaches us that millions of people will die. If you look back at history, the way most major societies collapsed was because they ended up in debt and couldn't support their financial system, going way back to the Romans. There have been some great books written about how societies collapse. I think Jared Diamond is probably one of the top experts in that, who's written some great books. And if you read his books, you can see that most of the things that lead to major collapses exist now. And I'm dreading the day. I have been told that the gun shops are selling out very quickly. I know people who are going to live in remote areas and grow their own food. So people already know this. So that's my comment on the government and the government systems.